Rasengan.
Three big reasons why Boruto won't die at the hands of JURA. But if you assume it's simply because he's the main character, you're very wrong. Before that, I want to reveal some secrets and also give a small preview of the latest Boruto chapter. First of all, still staying within the vibes of Boruto chapter 21, the major and most crucial part, and also the most interesting, is when Koji reveals the reason why he refuses to tell Boruto all the probabilities, including the method to awaken Sarada's Mangekyo Sharingan by sacrificing Yodo's life. And although the conversation between Boruto, Ada, and Kashin Koji only takes place in the last part of the chapter and only a few panels, but honestly this raises many assumptions, and we will start dissecting it from the opening of the conversation carried out by Ada. And after Sarada actually defeated Ryu, Ida immediately informed Koji if she had defeated Ryu with her new powers. Hearing the information conveyed by Ada, Boruto was quite shocked. Then Koji said, "So it's awakened. Good, we've managed to achieve one of the most critical goals of this battle." And are you somewhat aware of Koji's statement? Yeah, you should be even more aware, because after that statement, we're left with many assumptions. In other words, if the awakening of Sarada's Mangekyo Sharingan was one of the most important objectives of this battle, then what other goals does Kashin Koji intend to accomplish? Right, and once again, one of the most. Boruto has set the course for the future he wants. He doesn't want to listen to Koji's warnings anymore, even if it's at the cost of his own life. He simply leaves to save Konohamaru from Matsuri, who wants to kill him. Then the question here is, will Boruto die in vain at the hands of JURA? Whether you believe it or not, the answer is definitely no. But if you say it's because he's the main character, that's nonsense, isn't it? Boruto will not die in vain. Even if Boruto dies, it is certain that he will come back to life and may directly awaken the power of Jugun's eyes. Why is that? First, Boruto's plot armor is still in his body, namely Momoshiki. Besides that, there is something strange about Kashin Koji. Even after Yodo's death, he said that, but it wasn't in vain. Her sacrifice was a major contributing factor to this outcome, so it couldn't be helped. And indirectly, this already confirmed how his attitude was. In other words, Koji had started to show his true character. It turns out that he is indeed a person who can willingly sacrifice the lives of others in order to achieve his most important goal. So, don't be surprised if in the next few chapters there will be many characters who die before Boruto's eyes. The question is, why do these characters' deaths have to happen? The answer is, to realize what Momoshiki once said. Momoshiki once told Boruto that his blue eyes would take everything away from him. Koji must have seen in the future that Jugon is the only power Boruto has that can be used to save planet Earth. But Koji also sees in that future path a way to gain the power of the eye. And most likely, Boruto will have to experience very deep suffering. He had to see people he knew die before his eyes. But if I may guess who the next person is, I'm sure if he is Konohamaru. Although not for the future chapter, but Konohamaru has a probability if he will be a victim of the future that will be realized by Koji. In other words, although this assumption is not 100%, but at least Konohamaru is a very ideal candidate to make Boruto get his future. And that means maybe we will soon see Konohamaru die after fighting Matsuri. Anyway, Boruto previously also asked Koji, "Answer me truthfully. Was there any chance of the Mangekyo Sharingan awakening without anyone dying?" But that is an absolute bad thing. Besides, Sarada will not be able to awaken the power of her eyes. It will also backfire on Boruto himself. Even Koji also gave the reason that he judged that it was not something he needed to say to Boruto. And after seeing Boruto's reaction, now Koji is even more convinced that his judgment was not wrong. And that's what I mean about why there's something strange here. If Kashin Koji's intention was to keep Boruto from coming to Konohamaru's place, why did Koji tell Boruto about the Yodo sacrifice needed to awaken Sarada's Mangekyo Sharingan power? Because with Koji's statement about sacrificing Yodo for Sarada, this indirectly creates a trigger that makes Boruto suspect that Koji is also planning to let Konohamaru die and refute his warning to go to the battlefield. Kashin Koji should have chosen his words better so as not to provoke Boruto's desire to come to the battlefield. However, Koji's words to Boruto clearly provoked Boruto's desire to go there immediately. Because from Koji's words, Boruto will conclude that Koji is ready to sacrifice the lives of several shinobi just for the most important goal he wants to achieve. So Boruto will try to fight the future that Koji has seen. He will prove to Kashin Koji that the future he saw will never happen. The next question is this the scenario that Kashin Koji wanted? Yes, I was the first person who was absolutely sure that this was all set up by Kashin Koji. Koji deliberately provoked Boruto to stand firm in his beliefs. He is someone who can't stand to see his friends die without doing anything. In other words, Boruto is Boruto, someone who follows his own ninja way and will never stay silent when his friends are in danger. He will force himself to help them without thinking about the risks he might face. It could also mean that Jugen might only awaken through Boruto's strong sense of resolve like that. If Boruto didn't have that kind of determination, he would never be able to awaken the power of the Jugen, just like how Sarada could awaken her Mangekyo Sharingan if Boruto hadn't come to help her. And besides that, does Koji have a reason why he should choose Konohamaru for this mission? And after some consideration and analysis, it seems that the reason Koji chose Konohamaru was because he saw Konohamaru as a shinobi who could distract Matsuri for a long time. He was chosen not because he could defeat Matsuri, and that is to say, the reason Konohamaru was chosen was because he was the only shinobi who could keep Matsuri from interfering with the awakening of Mangekyo Sharingan Sarada. Then, after Sarada awakened her Mangekyo, what could Konohamaru do? Of course, he can only die if not helped by Boruto. Although I admit this sounds like nonsense, but what do you think, guys? Does this make sense? But even if you think that this is nonsense, it's okay. Oh yeah, back to the main point. Why Boruto won't die against JURA. First, it's obvious, as I said at the beginning. Boruto won't die because he still has a plot armor that won't let him die, and that entity is Otsutsuki Momoshiki. But if I may ask your opinion, who is stronger between Momoshiki and JURA? And for the second reason, Kawaki's arrival could be another reason why Boruto won't die, because after they made a promise and were determined to team up to defeat the Shinju, there's also a possibility that Kawaki will come to help. However, the big question, and honestly I myself still can't predict it, is whether Kawaki will come with his limiter removed or even show up without any limiter at all. In other words, Kawaki might come to help without being any stronger than usual. And lastly, I know this sounds crazy, but it actually makes a lot of sense. Boruto won't be captured by JURA or die because he's actually using a clone, Bunshin. So, from these 3 points, which one do you guys think makes the most sense as the reason why Boruto won't die? Or maybe you have your own theories, guys. I'd love to hear them. And yeah, that's it for our prediction this time. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Nim. See you in the next video. Bye bye. Databayo.